Morning. We're live. Good
Good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning in the Game Changing Work channel, where all of us always want to feel like it's going to work on a Friday night, right?
Yeah.
You gotta be
And
happy. Today's
exactly.
Wednesday. Instead of calling it hump day because it's the middle of the week, it is just Wednesday.
And
Imagine that.
also today is a special Wednesday, right? Because it's the Wednesday before New Year's Eve. So that gives it an extra flavor of Friday-ish feeling. So yeah, I think, and actually that's why we wanted to be here this Wednesday, this particular Wednesday, because we're talking about how everybody's making New Year resolutions right now, and let's see why they fail without good habits in place. Because we all know, yeah, right? We're thinking about, hey, this is what I'm going to start my year with. This is what I'm going to do next year, next year, next year. And then a month passes, and there you go. No more, I'm going to do it. Nah, maybe sometime, some other time, or I don't know. Let's see, something else. So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about New Year resolutions. I like to um, call them New Year solutions rather than resolutions because that gives us a more permanent state into
Yeah,
myself a solution.
it's more about the result, right? And thinking
Yeah,
about achievable outcomes.
exactly.
My pre-recorded show, I had to check last night to make sure it was the first time I did it on Restream, and I'm like, oh, thank God it worked. And I talked about intentions versus goals. So for
Mhm.
individuals that I say that 2021 is the year of thriving, that we're getting out of 2020 of surviving, and a lot of people are rethinking about everything, fit health, work, you name it, family, blah, blah, blah. And so now is a great time for us to think about good habits. And
Good. Yeah, exactly. I like it.
and good habits are based on those two things, is really understanding your intention. And intention, what I talked about last night, is where it's emotionally driven and it's purposely vague, because this is what's going to give you energy and be motivated to turn things into habits, right?
Mhm.
And you also need your North Star, which is the goal side, which is being very specific and thinking about something that is very achievable, and it's more time bound, where it has milestones. And so in order to get to good habits, we have to get to action and do something, and that is the key. And so you have to ask yourself, what are you getting to action about, and what's motivating you to do it every day, to turn into a habit, right? Those are the two key questions we should be asking ourselves.
And I like it. What's motivating you to do it every day? Because you're not going to see the results right away. You're not going to see benefits right away, right? It's a process. It takes time to see some benefits in place. And at the beginning, the reality is it's going to be painful or one way or another, or it's going to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Even if it's not painful, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable because it's something that maybe, I don't know, you've postponed for a long time, or you haven't done it at all, and so you're trying something new that may be a little bit uncomfortable or painful. So
It
the
is
whole
uncomfortable.
point is, yeah, how do you get yourself motivated through that, even without seeing the results right then, right there, right away?
Exactly. And that is all about mindset, is being comfortable in the uncomfortable zone. And the most
Mhm.
successful people out there know this. Every day they wake up, they're probably uncomfortable. And that is putting yourself in that stretch zone, not
Yeah.
necessarily in the panic zone, because that's where it comes to emotional
Mhm.
regulation. And you're
Exactly.
allowing yourself to stay stretched. So, for example, with the holidays, it's very stressful right now. And one of the things that I want to bring up is circumstance. We all
Mhm.
have things in our lives, like I could have had a crazy morning this morning, right? A lot of stress happening, but I am motivated, I'm driven, and I know my North Star, what I'm going to, and it got me to get my butt and do this today. Now, I could have just slacked and said, no, let's do a pre-recorded session. Let's do this, and find excuses to not do the things I need to do, right? And so I have been tested for these last 2 weeks because I have been doing holiday things and
Mhm.
trying to work, and I'm finishing up my client engagement where I'm working 40 hours and I'm starting my new business. I launched it to the world yesterday on LinkedIn. So that takes you to be able to know your intentions and have that motivation and energy and be very clear on the outcome that you want, and also be comfortable with uncomfortable of life circumstances, right?
Mhm.
Or work circumstances. And that is how good habits will start to form. Is if you can get through those three things, right, and get that clarity, that's when the magic happens. And it might not happen overnight. You have to keep doing it until you realize that first milestone result. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about how do you get to good habits? What do you think?
You keep trying. I mean, it's perseverance. That's basically, if I have a word for it, it's gonna be perseverance, because we all know the theory that it takes 21 days to form a good habit. And that means like 21 consecutive days.
Yeah,
So there is no
requires
skipping. That's
acknowledgement and willingness in those
exactly.
21 days. So if those don't exist, throw the 21 days out the door.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And that's where we see all of these New Year resolutions failing, because we expect that we're going to see something in place. We're going to experience some benefits at least during these 21 days, but that is just the time that it takes to form that new habit. And then to keep it, to integrate it, because it all then is down to how do I integrate this new habit in my life, in my schedule, in my daily schedule. It has to stay there. So the reality of that is that it actually takes 90 days, 90 days to integrate those habits into our lives. So that means that, yes, the first 30 days are going to be hard, because again, it's going to be like going to the
Figuring
gym.
it out.
Exactly. When you work out, you decide, okay, I'm gonna start working out. I'm gonna start doing exercises. Well, yeah, okay, you're gonna get some pain in your muscles the first few days or even the first few weeks, because you haven't done that up until that point, right? So then it's gonna be painful, and you're not necessarily gonna experience. Yeah, you're gonna like the feeling after, because hey, I'm proud of myself and I'm happy that I did it. But you're not necessarily gonna see the results in this is how I look now. Now I'm fit. Now I'm slim. Now I look the way I want to look, because it's still going to take some time for you to get there. It's the same thing with any kind of resolution that we're making. And then the whole point of this is, okay, 30 days it's going to be painful. The next 30 days are going to be messy, because I'm going to try things out and I'm going to try to see what I can change so that I can actually stick to it, so that it actually works for me. And then the next 30 days are going to be beautiful, because that's when I see, oh, so that's what happened. So that's how I feel. So that's what I've done. That's what I've accomplished. And that's what it brings me.
And
So 90 days,
you
90.
never know in 30 days if you get the results sooner. Great, right? And that's just if we think about like the Beachbody, the 21-day fix or whatever they have, everyone's body type is different. So let's talk about like life, work, career, and those of you that are wanting to either take a shift on what you're doing in your career, or those of you that might be looking for work, or those of you that are working in a company and your company, which I'm, leaving my engagement right now, they're talking about changing their approach on how they work. They've realized, had some aha moments of 2020 and realized now they have to start thinking about how they want to change, right? It's a new year. So regardless, it's the same across the board is my point. And one of the things that we have to realize while we're in this process is failure. And we learn that every time that we're doing it, we know it's not going to be pretty. It might be bumpy. And we have to take a step back and always know that it's a learning process. So, for example, for me, I have to learn how to actually sell now. Yeah, I'm probably going to get so many LinkedIn messages of all the people that are going to help me build my coaching business. Thank you. I'm okay right now. And they're like flooding my message box now. But what it is about now is I'm actually going through my 30-day strategic routine, and I'm going to learn along the way as I do it. And my expectations, and I think we need to talk about expectations, is I'm lowering them. I've already made in my strategy plan. Yes, I have in mind what I want, right? Always clients, what might have you. But I am not expecting in the first 30 days for some kind of miracle. I've already planned for this.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to understand is when you start to do anything new, and I dealt with this a lot as an agile coach when I'm in organizations, is you have to lower your expectations that something is just going to poof and magically just be euphoric when you first started. You have to realize you might not have results.
Or you're not going to have, or first of all, you're not going to see results immediately. And also, second, when you start seeing some results, they might not be what you expected them to be.
Exactly.
And I love so here I have Edison's quote on inventing the light bulb, right? I love it because it talks about what we were just talking about. I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps.
Exactly. And those results aren't the results you thought. And that's why I said by expectation. Here's the thing, and don't want that misconstrued of what I was saying is your perception of a result is going to be different based on what happens. What if through the process you learn something new, that you do a pivot because you had an aha moment that, wow, wait a minute, I didn't expect this to happen. How many inventions, and I love where you're going with that, how many inventions were actually done by mistake?
Or by doing something completely out of the blue, like that didn't necessarily relate to whatever it was that I thought I was doing. Like, if I think about, for instance, how Gmail was invented, it was invented because an engineer at Google was allowed to, how people at Google, they're allowed to work on something different than whatever it is in their job description. And I love that because that's how Gmail was invented. It was this guy who was working on this side project that had nothing to do with what he was doing. As an engineer, but he invented it, and then it was a huge success. So, and I bet like anything that you are trying to get to it's not gonna be a straight line from point A to point B,
Exactly.
and that's it, and it's done, and yeah, I've done it. No, it's gonna be like this. And at some point, it's going to be the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle falling into place.
And some
And it's like,
people, that drives them crazy. Just
yeah,
what we said freaks the bejesus out of a lot of people out there. And are you one of them? Let us know. Are you the type of person that is okay with doing something and by chance it ends up being something else and you pivot and you go
mhm,
with the flow? We'll just call it going with the flow, right?
yeah,
And are you someone that when you start something and you're very linear, that is your only path, right? It's A and B and only A and B. There is no C or D, there's no E, there's no F, there's no G. There's not even a question mark. Which one are you? And this is where we start to talk about our mindset and how we think and what that impacts our ability to get to good habits, which we're talking about today, to achieve the outcome, which I love where you're going with resolutions, the solution, the result that you're wanting. And if you're so, and this is where expectations, A and B, you might be telling your stories in your head, right? That there's this expectation that it has to be a certain way. And that's
mhm,
where you're going to have to do some reprogramming where it's okay if it's not that expectation. What if it ends up being something better?
yeah, exactly. And you're not saying it because you didn't expect it. You know how sometimes when we don't know what we're looking at, when we're not looking for it, we don't see it because we're not looking for it, but it was always there. It was the same. It's the same thing with getting to that result. It's just being able to see the new result. And I think we kind of tend to forget how we learn things. And this is why I love to talk about not necessarily failure, but trial and error, because that is the definition of learning. And this is how we learn anything. And we have to remember we weren't born walking. We didn't know how to walk. We had to learn it. And yes, we
Right.
had to, right? We had to fall and then we had to learn how to pick ourselves up. If we never fell, we wouldn't know how to get up,
And
right? We wouldn't
the best
learn how to.
memories is all of you think about your childhood. So think back and imagine what that looked like when you learned how to ride a bike. What do you
Right.
remember, listening to yourself and going through that process of learning how to ride a bike? And then how did you feel when the moment that you were able to, if you went from the training wheels or what might have you, everyone's process is different, but that feeling that you were able to go a little bit, right? And then a little bit further and a little bit further. This is all the same. And everyone is going to do it very differently. I have probably a very different experience about learning how to ride a bike than Roxanne. So for me, I never used training wheels. It was funny
Neither.
because I actually responded to a post comment yesterday about riding a bike where my dad got a bike where I couldn't even touch the pedals, like the ground, not the pedal, the ground. And he was trying to teach me to ride a bike. Well, there was a boat that was parked on the side of the road and I crashed into it. And I actually got mad at him because I felt like I couldn't control the bike because I couldn't touch the ground. It was mentally messing with me. So I had him go to the garage sale and get this bike at this garage sale that he got really cheap. That was like a small bike that I can touch the ground with. And we lived in a cul-de-sac at the time. And I taught myself because I had to do it my own way. And so this is my point. You have to figure your way to doing this. There's so many people out there that have their frameworks and processes, and I'm not knocking it. It's good if you don't know where to start, but during the process, you have to figure out your own way to it. And this is where those good habits are going to start taking shape, is when you put skin in the game and you start learning and adapting. And that's what I did. My dad was trying to teach me how to ride a bike the best way he could, the best way he knew, right? All of us coaches, all of us trainers, we do that out there today, right? Or leaders. But at the end of the day, I was at cause of learning how to ride that bike myself. And so I asked my dad, thank God he went to the garage sale and got the cheap bike. And I said, Dad, can you leave me alone? And I want to practice in the little cul-de-sac. And he was like, okay, no one's going to hit you. You know, he's like, I'm just like this little like 6-year-old, I think, or 5-year-old at the time. And he was like, okay, I'm uncomfortable with that. Right. And he left me alone. Literally, I was outside. And of course, I grew up in the days where parents weren't afraid that their kids left the front yard type of feeling. So, so I rode the bike, and this whole story is really about you that are watching us. Good habits form because of you and what you put in it and how you deal with it.
Exactly. And allowing time for things to start falling into place and for you to find that mojo, find
Yeah.
your, right? It's all about that. What works for me, what doesn't work for me. How do I get to keep what works and even improve it, right? That's all that we're talking about.
And you run. So like when you first started running, you might have been looking into what are the best shoes? What's the best type of stride, or how do I like do longevity, like breathing or whatever. But at the end of the day, as you started doing it, you probably figured out how to your own rhythm, your shoes that you like best. And it might not have been what everyone else uses. I don't know. I mean, what did that look like for you?
Oh, for me, that's interesting that you brought that up because for me, I don't know if I ever told you how I discovered running because I wasn't a runner up until I discovered that running was helping me um, with my migraines. So each time I got it, and I was having these migraines that the pain wouldn't go away no matter what I took. So it didn't go away with any kind of pills, and it would be there for 1, 2, maybe even 3 days. So what I discovered was that when I was running for more than 15 minutes, the pain would start to go away. So what actually happened to me is I experienced a little of the benefit of running. So for me, it was a clear benefit. It was improving my health, and it was actually helping me be able to still do normal activities during the day because with migraines you can't do anything. It just like knocks you
Yeah.
down.
I'm fortunate to not have that experience. I only had it once when I got food poisoning. I don't know. And it was like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that, I have a sister-in-law that has horrible migraines and it puts her out.
Exactly. So for me, it was partly experiencing the results, but also you have to think about the fact that each time I got a migraine, I had to actually go run. And that's not easy to do
The
because
last thing you want to do, you want to go in the dark, right? And lay down.
you don't want to move, much less start running. But I had to keep myself to push myself to do that and literally drag myself onto the treadmill because I couldn't run outside because it was like that would have been impossible because of the light and the noises and everything. But I had to literally drag myself onto the treadmill and start running so that I make it go away. And that's where you experience both the pain and then the result of, I dealt with it, I did it, and now I don't have it anymore, or it's diminished at least. And I can still do some of the stuff that I need to do. So, and I think for me, that was the, the hugest, I think, learning point that I ever got in, establishing new habits and doing things that work for me, knowing that, hey, even, especially when it's bad, especially when you don't feel like doing it, you have to keep doing it.
And that's where intentions, and this is why I started with that last night, because your emotions are going to regulate your motivation. And
Yeah.
so this is where going through the activity and answering at least those two questions is, what do you really want? And what are you willing to do? Because your intentions are what is going to be that little voice that sits on, talking to you. You got the other one going, go back to bed, Roxana, and then you got the other one going, no, you can do it. Get out there, right? You want this voice. And that is where the intentions, you were willing, right? What did you really want? You were able to answer that. And all the emotions around got you through it. And so this is where intentions are so, so important when it comes to taking action, because good habits are not going to happen until you face that. And you got to get real with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to do? What are you willing to gain or lose in the process? Because you losing, right? You had to answer that question. What were you willing to lose in that process? And it could have been time. It could, people have to think about time, money. What are some other things that are probably common? What in running? Let's use your example. If you were to say, what am I willing to lose? How would you answer the question on that? Like when people talk about exercise.
Well, when you talk about exercise, you talk about effort. So, are you gonna put in the effort, or would you rather, sit on the couch or surf the net or whatever it is that
So you
makes
might lose
you
your Netflix time.
exactly. So you give something up, and you give, and even if it's something that relaxes you, it relaxes you differently because exercise can relax you. It helps relax you, but in the midst of exercise, that's when you put in the effort that then gets you more relaxed, as opposed to sitting on the couch and watching Netflix.
And here's a couple things where, especially a lot of us, both Roxana and I are entrepreneurs, and a lot of our business is online. And you start to have to get to the discipline as are you a producer or are you a, consumer of content? And what I have done is that's why some people might not see me a lot on social media anymore, is because I'm realizing, am I a consumer or am I a producer, and how much am I spending time consuming? And if most of the people that are out there that you see on your feeds and doing things that are active and that's part of their business, they are producers. They are not sitting there all day, because guess what? That's not productive. And so think about your TV shows and Netflix binging and what might have you. I watch actually TV less, and I'm starting to even be challenged where when I go and I sit down to watch something, it literally has to be scheduled for me as part of Veronica's relaxation time or Veronica like veg out time, because I start to feel guilty that I should be doing something else for my business. And especially now I'm going to have more time on my hands because I'm not going to have this 40-hour job anymore. This is extremely important, right? You got to create that discipline and move into good habits. So think of some of you that are doing things today. How much are you spending on Facebook, right? Or Instagram, or watching things when you could be doing something else? So if you really want to start working out, for example, if you really want to start doing more family time, call your friends, because you're not, or anything that you've been contemplating in the year of 2020, as we move into 2021, ask yourself, what are you willing to relinquish so it gets you to, I love it, solutions. I'm going to start using that for 2021. And that's you have to be able to answer that question and get real with yourself, because if you don't start there and then you start going to action and you doing things, you wonder why it might fail. Good habits are never going to come realized, is my point, until you're really, as some people say, coming to Jesus about your life and your world and your willingness
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to build them, and you can't. They don't come in a in a box like that. You don't buy good habits from somewhere. You just
And
need
it's
to
not
build
easy.
them. Yeah, no,
But
but
find
it's just
a support network, right?
exactly. So,
So how
what
did you do it yourself, or did your family support you to help you get out there and run? Like, how did that look like for you?
So for me, it was a combination, and again, it's different for everybody. So for me, when I started running half marathons, it was just the just the event and the crowd and the beauty of running in the streets and seeing the streets differently and getting that vibe and energy.
So it was
Uh,
an environment that was almost like your support network.
that was my support network, but that was only once or twice a year when I was running the half marathons.
Mhm.
Otherwise, regularly on my treadmill, it was my me time, and it was a combination of meditation, focusing, and how you get all of the best ideas when you don't think about anything. It was my
Yeah.
time. I wasn't thinking about anything. I would just run, and it would be just me and my running and my music, and then that was it. So that was, and then my family would be there to, support me whenever I was running the half marathons and stuff. But they also, what helps when people recognize you, and then when you recognize yourself. And I was reading this article of, "Are you a runner?" And it said, "Are you a runner?" And the question was, and I actually talk about it in my TEDx talk because I think we rarely think about that. And the question was, are you a runner? And then think about, well, do you run? Because if you run, you're a runner. And the only condition was that you run regularly,
Yeah.
and that makes you a runner. It doesn't have to be a high performing athlete running kind of stuff, but do you do it regularly? So you have to think that. I think that's the essential question. Do you do it regularly? Do you exercise? Do you, I don't know, work on improving yourself? Do you take care of yourself? But as long as you regularly, that's what makes you it.
And I love that, where this is a good thing as a takeaway as we wrap up
Yeah.
is take out a sheet of paper, put two columns, and list all the things that you do regularly, and list all the things on the right that it's almost like a sometimes category. Like when you're at the doctor's office and they ask you, do you do regularly, sometimes, or always, right? So
Yeah.
I'm asking you, make a list of the things that you do regularly and what are the things that you do sometimes, and see what the results are. This is going to be a fun exercise for you, because what it's going to start to get you to maybe think about, and you might have some aha moments, is, are the things on the left of the regular what you want, and are the things on the sometimes what should be there? And so do you need to swap some, is my point. So do that exercise, because that's going to get you to go, oh, regular versus sometimes. Okay, that needs to go over there, that needs to go over there, because
Mm-hmm.
your regular might be watching Netflix all the time, and that might not get you might need to have to swap sometimes over here, which is that is really what you want in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do that exercise. I think that would be great for some people to have an aha moment.
Exactly. And once you understand what your regulars should be, or what your regulars you want them to be, then you schedule them. Make sure that you make room for them in your daily or weekly schedule, depending on what works for you, but definitely schedule them. Because that your personal schedule, work schedule, whatever it is, that's still you, that's your schedule, and it's important. That's important to take care of. So make sure you make room for
Yeah.
it, and
And
then allow time.
if you're visual, looking at it is probably going to be more resonating. If you're
Yeah.
more auditory, maybe you need to talk to yourself, right? Self-talk
Yeah.
about that list of what you see. And if you're more kinesthetic, it's going to be more of how you feel about
Mhm.
what is there. And then you
Yeah.
have the fourth one, which is more auditory digital, which is making sense, right? So
Exactly.
depending on how you are as an individual, it still will be, does it make sense? How do you feel about it? What is your self telling you? And what does it like look like to you from that
Mhm.
list? And very interested. So those of you that do the exercise, comment on this video and let us know how that worked for you. I
Yeah.
would love to know about that.
And let us know how your New Year solutions are working for you. And if you need to chat some more on the topic, also let us know. Okay, so wrapping up, what we're going to your free 45-minute goal setting
So
December session.
for the new year, those of you that are going through a transition where you are ready to change the paradigm in your career and life of, you either are burnt out, you are not necessarily confident to move into a direction where it's going to give you more freedom and flexibility, where in 2020 you started to realize maybe it's January, right? And think back before the pandemic, where you didn't have all the ability to be home more, or anything that got you to start thinking, I need to change my situation. I'm doing a free 45-minute, actually, update. It's more of a strategy call and really understanding where your current state is, so you can start thinking about what you need to do to put a strategy in place. So I'm offering 45 minute to help you get some more clarity about where your current state is. So you can go ahead and schedule that with me, and the link is there below.
Hmm. And that is great because it's exactly what need. If you want some good habits in place, you will need a good strategy to go with that and to support that the new habits building. So that is awesome when you
Yeah.
combine it
And you need to
physically.
get clarity.
Oh,
You have to
exactly.
understand where you are at the moment,
Yeah.
because your strategy might not make sense
Hmm.
for you to just jump in and start taking action. So we really take the 45 minutes and try to really level set where you are at the moment.
Hmm. Awesome. All right. And I do have my Lead for Legacy League for management and leadership development. This is a global online program for management and leadership development. So if you're at a point where you're looking for your own solutions around how you can be a better manager or a better leader or get some people skills in place, because hey, now you're managing a team but nobody ever taught you how to deal with people or how to manage people effectively, how to manage teams effectively. That is for you. And by the way, it's a super special offer by tomorrow. I can't believe. And when I was saying that December 31st, it was like, whoa, far away in the future. And now
Mhm.
it's so make sure that you get this offer, and what you're getting is online courses on leadership and people management. Also, you're getting group coaching and brainstorming because you have a group of peers from all over the world that struggle or are successful in their management or leadership roles and who wants to become even better leaders and even better managers, so that they feel that they are, because success is all about how we feel.
Yeah,
So
being
join
confident
the
in the role. And I'll
yeah.
put my 2 cents of how important this is in 2021, as I have for the last 7 years been in company transformations as an agile coach. I saw it every day. And what is going to be different going into 2021 is that people in 2020 have gone through a lot of thinking and feeling in seeing a world that's a little different. And so you might have people questioning behaviors and everything that are happening with the people that report to you. And if you're not as confident on how to coach and mentor them as they're going through this personal change, and helping them figure it out, because as a leader, you are a coach and mentor, you're a people leader to them. And you're just like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. This is going to be very helpful for you, because if you are thinking that you can coast, because that is what you've done in 2020, because of the circumstance, buckle up, because 2021 is going to put you through a whole new ride. It's like a brand new roller coaster, and get ready to free fall.
Yeah, exactly. So having some solutions in place
There's a
and how
lot
to
of
enjoy the roller coaster. Exactly.
It's going to be a year. 2021 is going to be a year of a lot of change,
Yeah.
because the minute like the gates open, like a greyhound race, like, I probably shouldn't say greyhound, that's inappropriate. But any kind of thing where once the floodgates open, people aren't going to hold back anymore. Any of you guys ever study history? Think of all the history milestones that have been out there. This is no different. We're about to pivot and turn. After something that usually is down, we can only go up. And when we start to go up, and this is just history, you're going to see a lot of people doing different things. This is the time to learn how to lead.
Yeah. So with that said, I think this is the longest episode, which makes sense
Oh,
because
well, we're going to be off on January 1st. We're going to take our holiday. So that's probably why we're having this long, because we are going to be off air on January 1st, and then we're going to come back next Wednesday.
Yeah, and also we love being here with everybody. So I think that's what makes it fun. Okay, so wrapping up, have a happy 2021 and make it be a game-changing year for you, whatever that means for you, and make sure that you find out what this means for you in
Yes.
2020.
It's the year of thriving.
Yeah.
We are done surviving. As I say, screw surviving.
Yeah.
That's it. Close the book. So
all right.
We are ready to go. Have a wonderful New Year's, and be ready to rock and roll. Everything we always say, put it behind, and let's just start moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. See you next year, everybody.
Bye.